Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to cover about how Singapore deal with the issue of healthcare using the shared responsibility approach. Okay, and in this video, as I go through the slides, I will also switch back and forth with the notes because in the notes, this is what you have. You can start to take some extra notes that are included in class. If you have forgotten to take it down in class, you can use that chance to um, revise and take it down. Okay, so that although your notes are very wordy already, but sometimes I simplify the language a bit so it's easier for you to remember. All right, so have your notes with you. The notes should be your part 4 notes on Singapore's shared responsibility approach. So in the previous video, you might have watched the video about America's market-based approach, where the government really don't want to care with healthcare very much. They tell people that it's your individual responsibility. You go and save up, you go and buy your own insurance. If anything happen to you, you can pay for your own healthcare. The government don't have to come in and help you to pay. In Singapore, it's a slightly different. It's shared responsibility, which basically you need to know it means the individuals are still responsible to pay for their own healthcare, but the government also has a responsibility, and the government is going to help you to pay for the healthcare a little bit. So you need to, from this video, learn how does the Singapore government help individuals with a little bit of their healthcare. Okay, so in your notes you can see this, right? Okay, you can see that this child subsidy. Okay, um, the healthcare, you can have a healthcare bill, but the government may give you subsidy and you end up paying less. So the government actually assists people with how to pay for the healthcare using subsidies. Okay, so we're going to talk about what is the shared responsibility approach. Okay, so it's a balance between personal or individual responsibility and the government's responsibility. Okay, so what is the shared responsibility approach? So let me go back to the slide for a while so they can have some pictures. Okay, let me see. Okay, I mentioned this in class. In Singapore, a lot of the hospitals are government or public hospitals. For example, all your Khoo Teck Puat Hospital, your Singapore General Hospital, your Changi General Hospital, Sengkang General Hospital, NUH, all government hospital. What does that mean when they are government hospital? In your notes, under public hospital, you can add, it means the government will provide assistance and subsidy in most hospitals. Because in a public hospital, the hospital is owned by the government. The government can come in to help to pay some of the healthcare bills. If you are in a private hospital like Raffles Hospital, Thomson Medical, very expensive hospitals, the government will not come in and help that much because it's a private hospital. You want to go to a private hospital, you don't expect government to come and help you. So in Singapore, it's already a good start. Most of the hospitals are public hospital, which means the government help with a lot of the healthcare problems in Singapore. All right. And how does it do it? Is by subsidizing the different hospital wards, especially the lower class B and C wards. I mentioned this in class. A class A ward like this can be very beautiful, very comfortable. If you can afford a class A ward, the government basically tells you you don't need to get any money and subsidy from it because you probably can afford it anyway. But if you are poorer and you have to live in a class B2 or class C ward even, okay, because you can't afford the hefty bills of a class A ward, the government will say, okay, I'll give you more subsidy. If you're in class C ward, you are probably quite poor. I will come and even pay up to 80% of your hospital ward fees. Maybe you'll do your surgery and all this thing. Uh, Maybe it doesn't count, but you're staying in the hospital, staying in the bed, the government can come and cover up to 80% of your costs. Okay, so what you want to do, so take note, government assist and they heavily subsidize. So I circle the point, so this is probably one of the more important and useful examples you can use. Okay, we skip a few points. Okay, However, even though the government subsidize the wards heavily, okay, through heavy government subsidy, collective responsibility, and risk pooling, okay, individual family responsibility is still important. So this one you highlight because we mentioned, right, it's a shared responsibility, it's personal responsibility and government responsibility. We talk about how government provides subsidy, very heavy subsidies in a hospital. You also want to be able to tell me how does individual play a responsibility. So just like in America, individual responsibility means you need to maybe save up, okay, so that you can pay for your bills when you ever need to pay for your healthcare bills. You may also want to buy your own insurance just like in America so that in the event something bad happen to you, the insurance company can come and cover some of your healthcare bills or maybe even all of your healthcare bills. Okay, for the very good and expensive insurance, they can cover everything. Okay, but there's another example you want to take note. Okay, there is an example of individual responsibility and also government responsibility. Actually, is this thing called MediSave. MediSave is basically this thing in your CPF. Okay, let me see if I can show you a picture. It makes more sense. Okay, you have this CPF account, which means that every month as you're working, right, you and your employer, you will save this money to this account called the CPF or Central Provident Fund. Under the CPF, there are a few accounts, but one of the accounts that you want to know today is the MediSave account. So the government every month, right, will put some of your salary and put into this MediSave account. So this is compulsory. If you are working in Singapore, you're a citizen, you confirm have CPF. The government force you to save money in this MediSave. Okay. So for example, okay, this one you don't even know how to calculate, but you can see every month you got your CPF, you get to donate, you can put in a few bucks in the MediSave account. So for this example, every month this person save $80 in the CPF account in this MediSave piggy bank. Now, why is this MediSave piggy bank? If you fall sick, remember the government may subsidize some of your healthcare bills. You may pay some of it in cash. You may have insurance, but the government also makes sure you have some money saved up, okay, in this piggy bank called the MediSave. Okay, so that in the event you need to pay for your healthcare bills, they make sure that at least some Singaporeans will have some money. As long as you're working, you have CPF, you have some MediSave to pay for your healthcare bills. So this is like an individual responsibility because it's your money, but the government also has a bit of responsibility in this because this is a government policy. The government want everyone to save. Okay, so it's a bit of individual and government responsibility, which is why that's why Singapore's is called really shared responsibility approach. Both the individual and the government plays a role. Okay, I'm going to skip to page 3 a little bit. Okay, so MediSave is more of personal responsibility, but it can also be considered government responsibility if you explain it that way. Okay, so the last thing you might want to know from Singapore healthcare, besides just now we mentioned hospital wards, besides MediSave, you want to know that there are other multiple tiers of protection, okay, which leads to this thing that I asked you to take down in class. We talk about government subsidies. They pay for your hospital wards. The government pay for your hospital wards. So this is the government's responsibility. In between, individuals, you have to save in your CPF. You have to save money in MediSave so that you can pay for your healthcare bills. The government also makes sure all Singaporeans buy this insurance called the MediShield. So it's a compulsory health insurance that is paid for using your CPF, your MediSave. Okay, so they make sure that some people may not fall sick in their life. Some people maybe in their life they don't get cancer, they don't go to hospital. They don't need to pay very expensive hospital bills. But there are some people who are unfortunately not as lucky and they may get all these very big healthcare issues. Okay, so the government makes sure there's insurance and everyone pays a bit of the insurance. And once in a while, if some people need to claim the insurance because they fell very ill, they can claim from the government insurance like MediShield. So this is a government insurance to make sure that every month you pay a bit, or every month or every year you pay a bit of your premium to the insurance. And if anything bad happen to you, the insurance can pay out some more. Okay. The last thing you want to know about Singapore's healthcare, the government's responsibility is MediFund. MediFund is basically the last resort to help the poorest with the rest of your healthcare bills. If the government has subsidized you already, if your MediSave, you have ran out of MediSave, MediShield also don't pay enough to cover your healthcare bill, and you are still short of money to pay your healthcare bill, the government will assess and see, okay, maybe your family financial situation is not so good. So we have this last thing called MediFund, which is basically government's money to help the poorest. They'll come in and say, okay, we'll help you to pay the rest of the healthcare bills. If you run out of MediSave, you run out of MediShield, I already subsidized you already, still not enough, MediFund will kick in to help you cover the rest. So multi-tier of protection. In all this, when you look at it as a whole, there's both government responsibility and both individual responsibility. That's why it's called the shared responsibility approach. Okay, I hope you all can follow so far. All right. Okay, the last part that I want to cover in the notes is a bit of the challenges. This one I didn't cover in class very much, but all you need to know is Singapore, although system compared to America where the government don't do very much, Singapore's healthcare system seems like quite fair, right? Okay, the government coming to help the individuals a little bit. Okay, but it's not flawless lah, because in Singapore there's very challenging. The healthcare demand is always growing because there are more and more old people, there are more and more people falling sick, and healthcare will get more and more expensive. And when healthcare is very expensive, there's few reasons. People may not be able to pay for it. And even the government, if the government wants to come in and help, the government may also struggle with it because the government needs to pay the hospital, need to pay the doctors, need to pay for the medicine and so on. So both government and individuals can have a very hard time because it's increasing costs, okay, and increasing demand. Okay, so if more and more people fall sick, the government may one day even be considered be forced to raise taxes so that the government has more money so that they can continue to subsidize the Singaporeans who really need the government's help. Okay, so this is the two main challenges you need to know lah. Singapore is aging rapidly. The people are living longer, which means you might need a lot of treatment in your old age. People are sedentary, they are lazy, they are getting all sorts of chronic diseases like diabetes, like cancer. Okay, so these are all things that the government and individuals are struggling with in Singapore. Okay, for you to know, but I think more important you need to know is what is this shared responsibility approach really about. Okay, how the individuals come in and how the government help out also, and how is this different from America where the government don't do anything at all. Okay, so that's it for Singapore healthcare shared responsibility approach. The next time I record this video, we'll cover more about a new country, which is Sweden, where it's no longer the shared responsibility approach. It's no longer an individual market-based approach in America. It's a all-out government responsibility approach where the Swedish government takes almost full responsibility. Okay, so that is for the next video. I'll stop here today.